Okay, hello. That's us live again for the second of these vlog discussions. So we're changing the format a little bit, making it a bit shorter. So this will be pretty quick fire, 15-20 minutes, so that's really accessible for people to watch. So today we're just going to discuss one topic and get the thoughts of myself and two other instructors. So today we've got Ruaridh again, who joined us in the first one, and Alan's joining us for the first time today. So the question today we're covering is, does karate teach discipline? So let's start us off with your thoughts. So maybe Alan, just since you're new to the vlog, do you want to start us off with your thoughts?
Yeah, no worries. So does karate teach discipline? I would say there's definitely not a yes no answer to that one. My thoughts are that it can do, but I think that really when you're looking at discipline, you're looking at a self-discipline, and I would consider karate, like a number of other sports and things, a key to unlocking that discipline within someone themselves. I don't think you can impose or teach discipline very easily, but I think karate is a particularly good tool to unlock people's self-discipline, especially younger people that maybe haven't found something in life yet that can really take their focus. Karate, as I said, this applies to a lot of other sports and a lot of other pursuits in life, but it's something that they can find meaning, and through that meaning they can find discipline. Obviously in karate dojos, the etiquette and discipline is maybe stronger than in some other things, but I think the principles are the same.
Nice. Ruaridh, do you want to start us off? Just a quick thoughts to start us off.
I found that I looked through a few books to see if there were any references to discipline. You know, Karate Do My Way of Life by Funakoshi Sensei, and 20 Precepts. And it doesn't seem to mention it, but it's as if it's implied in every aspect of karate. It's like just implied that, of course, you're going to be disciplined about this. And I think, yeah, we've been around a number of clubs with young children, and you can see them come in and they've got heads full of broken bottles. They're all, ooh, and within a couple of years of training, they're kind of disciplined, or the ones that have stayed are. And the others that are fooling about tend not to stay. But the ones who seem to get the spirit of it seem to learn how to discipline themselves. And within a couple of years of training, they've become very, very different young men and young women than the people that first started and were larking about and being stupid. All right, you can still lark about and be stupid, but they seem to have that discipline about them all of a sudden. The ones that actually stay, I think the ones that don't get it just leave. But yeah, that's my initial sort of thoughts. Now, I went through all these books, couldn't find anything, but I thought everything I'm reading implies discipline.
Yeah, I like that. Definitely. I'll pick that up as well, because if you think, you know, karate, when it was sort of illegal in Okinawa, and there was just a master would train, and then someone they would trust, they would take them under their wing and teach them karate eventually, you know, sort of on the sly. And then it evolved into, it was illegal, and then it was brought into the Japanese sort of schools and college systems. And you're not telling me that those young kids in Japan in early 1900s weren't already disciplined. Okay, karate wasn't being used to teach them discipline. And then it became, it went worldwide, but it was largely an adult thing. So then you've got things like, you know, if you turned up to a dojo with an attitude without that sort of level of discipline, you'd probably just get beaten up and you wouldn't go back. But then only with the introduction of kids, okay, all of a sudden it's flipped. Now karate is seen as something that has to sort of introduce that discipline to people, which is kind of the opposite. It was assumed and implied in the early days, if you like. I know that wasn't really my thoughts on whether we teach it or not, but we'll get to that shortly. But just an interesting point. Have you got anything else on that, Alan?
I think that's quite a good point that I was actually going to bring up. I think one of the big dangers, or one of the big kind of misconceptions, is, especially with kids, parents will say, oh, I'm gonna send them to karate because that'll teach them discipline. And I think that's a big mistake. It might do. Kind of what Ruaridh was saying there as well. It's almost like a chicken and egg thing. When you look at people that at a very high level of karate that have done it for years and years, they're always very disciplined. Has karate taught them that discipline, or is it just that those disciplined people are the ones that stayed doing karate because of their discipline? So it's kind of a difficult thing. One thing that I thought was quite interesting, obviously over the lockdown, we've done a lot of the kind of Zoom classes, and yourself teaching, you've had some Zoom classes where you've had a bit of feedback, you've seen the other students, but you've done the Facebook online videos, and for all you know, everybody's sitting on the couch and watching it and not actually doing it. You don't know that. So from my personal level, we do the Tabata classes, and I'll be training so hard, and I've got my two sons, and they're kind of messing about a bit, and I can't stop to be strict on them. There's no sensei there, but then you watch them on a Zoom class and they're like dead strict like the dojo. So it's trying to get the self-discipline into them to train on their own, rather than when they're being watched or when they're being scrutinised.
You got anything on that, Ruaridh?
I think, yeah, that is the essence of it. I think is it has to be self-discipline. You can't have, like, I was watching a video. Someone sent me a clip of a karate club, and it looked to me like it was Eastern Europe. And the sensei was basically beating the crap out of all of his students because they weren't, oh, you're not doing that, stance is wrong, bang, whatever. And he was literally throwing them across the dojo. And I'm thinking, yeah, you could say that's sort of instilling discipline, but it's more like terrorism. I think it has to come from within. You have to find it within. The only book I found that actually did, as a present from my son, called Budo Shoshin Shu, which comes from the 15th century in Japan. It's a samurai handbook. So it's not necessarily karate, but it refers, it's a series of essays. And one of these essays is about discipline. And he mentions there that training in martial arts is great for instilling discipline and intelligence into people. He starts off by saying, you can have a very clever fellow who will naturally take to all the deep secrets and for whom martial arts training is just easy. And then you have a slow, dim-witted fellow, but he'll still benefit because by the time he's finished his training, he will have begun to explore deep philosophical concepts too. And so therefore, he will have become more knowledgeable and intelligent. And in many ways, he's the guy through practicing the discipline of martial arts that will benefit most. Because he says quite often the clever guy, the guy for whom it's all natural, will go on to become very arrogant and big-headed. And he's lost the way then. Whereas the other guy will plod through and gradually accrue the knowledge that's required through discipline, through applying his own sort of self-discipline. And I think that's true. You see people in the dojo who are just naturally talented. And quite often they're the ones that leave after a while because, well, I've done that now.
They're bored. Yeah.
Learned my karate. Whereas other people, much like myself, everything's a bloody struggle. I'm the dim-witted, slow one. Yeah,
as long as you keep turning up, though, that's the thing.
That's it.
Keep turning up, and it's the drip feed, isn't it? It gets there. I'll pick up on something that Alan said there about, parents bringing kids to teach them or to give them discipline. And it's way too simplistic. At the risk of being the horrible sensei trying to put it all back on the parents, probably something I'm about to find out when my little one grows up a bit. But some kids, they might be troublesome kids, and they might have terrible upbringing at home, and this, that, and the next thing, and no discipline outside the dojo, and they just take to it, and that's fantastic, and it just becomes something occasionally. But more often than not, I would say you would get a parent in saying, right, I want this discipline for this child. And then they turn up for the first 3 weeks late, nearly every class, which is coming down from the parents. And then they start coming just once every 2 or 3 weeks. They're just sort of on the parents. There's always an excuse. There's always something, a reason not to do it. And then there's a lack of interest coming from the parent then as well, which rubs off on the kid. And then all of a sudden they're thinking, why do I have to turn up on time? Why do I have to turn up at all? Why do I have to try when I'm there? Why do I have to show an interest? Because my role models aren't showing an interest. So even if you've got your sensei working as hard as they can, and the seniors in the dojo trying to give that passion and set that example, it's, you know, it still needs to come from the home to some degree. For most people, as I say, they are the odd exception. You know.
Yeah, I think it needs to, like I said, I consider it like a key. It needs to unlock something in that individual, and I've seen it in other things, sports. I coach at the swimming club, and we had for quite a long period. There was kind of two coaches. Myself, I came from a really competitive swimming background, and the other guy was less so. He was a lot more kind of doing it for a hobby, doing it for fun. And it was amazing watching some of the swimmers, the young swimmers that had never really trained hard. They came along and they went through the motions, and then I started to implement some discipline on themselves, as in train just for the sake of training and train really, really hard. And you see their eyes light up, some of them, you know, they really take to it. So I think if somebody comes to a karate dojo and immediately that sort of disciplined etiquette appeals to them, they'll just take off with it, you know. But it has to unlock that in the individual. You can't really force it on someone. That if someone can't be bothered, then it's never gonna work.
Yeah. You do. You have as many that drop out because it just doesn't ignite something, and sometimes you just can't. Yeah. You, as an instructor, sometimes you try the hard approach, you try the soft approach, you try the fun approach, you try the variety approach, you try the plenty of rest approach, and some people you just can't connect with them to get that. What I would say is in karate is sometimes, like maybe what Ruaridh alluded to a minute ago, was instructors that sometimes misinterpret what discipline is and just go for the beating up, the hard, you know, shouting at people, which you may get that short-term sort of obedience, but it's born of fear, and if that's all your discipline is made up of, it's short-term. It'll lead to resentment and possibly psychological damage to the student. Whereas that discipline needs to be born of respect and awareness. You need to try and get them to respect you. But you know, there's different ways of doing that. But you need to show them you're enthusiastic about what you're doing. You believe in what you're doing. You know when to go faster, to go slower, that sort of thing. And you know, some different people tick different ways there. But I think some people just interpret discipline as you know, just do as I say. You know, regardless, and sometimes it can be a bit counterproductive.
I think the sensei is like showing you the door. He's opening the door for you, but you have to walk through that door. That's maybe a cliched way of, but I think that is essential. You have to walk through that door. I think this is one of the things that I've always loved about Bruce Lee with his philosophy on it. Is, you know, your kung fu or karate must be yours. Don't follow me. Don't copy me, because that's my way of doing it. You have to look at me and think, all right, yeah, and then find your way of doing it. And I like that idea, and I think that's also in the older I've got in karate, the more I've discovered that I'm never going to be able to do a side kick right up there. So, but if I can do a really good low-level side kick, well, that's what you got to aim for, rather than just aspire to be someone else. Be yourself, and I think that's where you find that self-discipline. In the Tabata classes, yeah, you could take it easy, or you can say, no, I'm going to go really hard on this. And I think that's down to the person themselves, and I think it comes down to what Alan said earlier. Does karate give you the discipline, or does your discipline make you do the karate? If you see what
yeah.
I think, yeah, it's chicken and egg, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we'll start winding down now, guys, because we're nearly 15 minutes anyway. So if we maybe just last little thoughts. So I'll give you my thoughts, and then perhaps we'll go Alan and Ruaridh, you can finish us off. So that means you get the chance to just disagree with everything we said, Ruaridh, and that's the last word. But I'll just have a quick point on training, the difference between adults and kids, because I think the discipline side is actually really valuable as an adult, possibly more so. As a karate instructor, you literally have people who bow to you and, you know, do what you say, so to speak. So when I train in the line, especially when we get the likes of you guys teaching, you know, it just hammers that ego down. It reins you back in again. So no. I just need to, you know, focus, do what I'm doing, not get too big for my boots. And I think it works not just for karate instructors. It works as that nice kind of leveler for anyone. You know, whether you're a lawyer or you're unemployed or anywhere, you know, anywhere in between. It doesn't really matter. You know, because the karate sort of reminds you that it doesn't, you know, everything else is irrelevant. It's all about how hard you want to train on the next punch or the next kick or the next block. So yeah, I think as an adult, it's quite a valuable tool just to bring you back down to yourself and back to the world, shall we say, rather than you know, becoming too big for your boots. And that'll do me. I think that's all I've got to say. So Alan, have you got anything to add to this?
I would say similar on the adult thing. My own personal karate journey, I started when I was 18, so pretty much an adult. And on the discipline thing, that I'll never forget the first class. It was a university club, so it was, you know, the 50, 60 students in this huge hall. Maybe 20 or 30 of us had never done anything before, you know, we're there in our shorts and t-shirts, and it was like, right, just basically follow along, and it was like, line up, out, and everybody started running to line up, and I remember the instructor saying, everything we do in this dojo is 100%, everything we do is 100%, and instantly I was like, right, it doesn't mean go as fast and as hard as you can in everything you ever do, but everything you do is done with commitment and done with in a serious manner when you're in the dojo. And I think that was something that was really, and you can tell at any dojo you go into when they line up at the start how well disciplined the class is, because if there was no wandering about, you know, it's line up quick, sensei calls you over, you always run, you know, it's things like that. So I think that level of taking everything seriously in the dojo is something that really, when you become an adult, definitely rings true. So that would be my kind of final point on it. But that was my initial thing that really attracted me to karate. I was like, this is different. Everything we do is like, right, 100%. You know, and
like
I like that, really appealed to me.
Different to anything else you do the rest of your life.
Yeah,
I think that's
absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. Ruaridh, you want to finish us off?
Okay, well, going back to that little book, that he uses an old Japanese proverb in the end of that, and he says the idea of training in the martial arts is to find that discipline, to go into the minutiae and the detail of what you're doing, and then apply that to every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life should be disciplined and rounded and balanced. And you shouldn't be, and there's an old Japanese saying, apparently, according to him, perhaps in the 15th century, was miso should not smell too much like miso, or it is disgusting. And he says, so in the same way, a martial artist should not reek of martial arts. He should instead be a balanced, disciplined, courteous, polite individual, not one of these arrogant bullies going, oh, I'm a tough man. And I think that's effectively what the discipline of certainly from my point of view, of any martial art should be, is to make you that rounded person, so that you're not having to strut about, boasting about how tough you are, but you're actually this rounded, completed person, so that you're not like miso that smells too much of miso. I think what I'm getting at is, yeah, you should apply that discipline to every aspect of your life. Pay attention to every detail, I suppose, is the way to sum it up. And then that will benefit you in every aspect.
Very nice.
End of lecture.
Nice. Yeah, fantastic. I think that's a good place to finish. Are we happy with that, guys?
Yeah, spot on.
With that, so thanks all for watching. That was the second vlog that we've done. So there'll be another one out soon. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Cheerio.
Cheers.
Cheers, John.